Hello bachon, welcome back to my channel Study with Ekta. Today we're going to start with the poem Wind from your class 9 English Beehive. And this poem is a beautiful short poem and you're really going to understand it to line by line. So let's get started. Okay, now initial lines in the box that are being written here, it says the wind blows strongly and causes a lot of destruction. Okay, we know the difference between a breeze and a strong wind, okay, which is roaring and really blowing at a very high speed, and obviously this kind of a wind is going to bring a lot of destruction. Now, what is the first line of the poem that says, wind comes softly, don't break the shutters of the windows, don't scatter the papers, don't throw down the books on the shelf. See, in this stanza, what is the poet addressing? It's addressing the wind directly. It's, saying, it's telling the wind to really come very softly, very slyly, very steadily, right? And he pleads, there's a request with it. There's a request attached, to these lines that he really wants, the wind to come very gently. He doesn't want the wind to, blow in a very destructive manner so that it could break the shutters of the windows. Okay, it doesn't want the wind to do that. It even, doesn't want the wind to scatter the papers haywire, all over the place. I mean, in general, what is the poet trying to say? He's trying to say that don't create any kind of a chaos in the house, neither by breaking the windows, nor by spreading the papers on the floor, and also not by throwing down the books from the shelf. It's like the book shouldn't topple down from the shelf. That's what, a request has been given to the wind. The wind has been addressed very beautifully by the poet, and he's directly addressing the wind. He's directly requesting the wind. There's a lot of pleading so that it blows very gently and does not cause any destruction. Now, children, we are going to study the poetic devices side by side with the stanzas as we keep learning. Now, we have beautiful 4 lines, and any guesses about the poetic devices? If yes, then please do drop your comment in the comment section below and let me know the poetic devices that you might have guessed. Okay, let me start with the poetic devices. See, now here we have treated wind like a human being. Why? Because we are addressing the wind and we are trying to figure it out that the wind might listen to us. So that that property of that quality or that feature of listening and acting according to someone's advice is something which is very relatable to human beings. So here the wind has been personified. So the first poetic device, you guys can just note it down. This is personification. Okay, now we have another device. If you just kindly look into the sentences, the 3 lines below the first one, they begin with the same word: don't, and don't. Now when you see the repetition that is right there in the beginning of the lines, the device that comes to your mind is anaphora. Okay, always remember that. Okay, now the third device, I guess every one of you must have guessed it right in your mind. See, when you talk about the wind, the destruction, the various things, it's actually creating a chaos around, maybe breaking down the windows, or maybe the papers are just flying around and the books are just toppling down from the shelves. Now what is it creating? It's creating an image in your mind. So that means we have the third poetic device, that is imagery. So children, I hope these 3 devices along with the first 4 lines of the poem are clear to you. Okay, so let's move on to the next 4 lines. There, look what you did. You threw them all down. You tore the pages of the books, you brought rain again. You're very clever at poking fun at weaklings. Now here, what is the poet trying to do? The poet is trying to accuse the wind. Because he's really blaming the wind that you're really, getting very destructive. Why? Because, we are requesting you, and we've been pleading you, and you're just ignoring the plea, you're ignoring our, requests. And what are you doing? You're just causing damage, right? So this is what the poet is trying to tell the readers, that the poet, is telling that the wind is, moving on a very destructive path. Now what is it doing? It's tearing the pages of the books, right? And it's bringing down the rain. Whenever you see a lot of wind blowing around your area, and there are, huge black clouds in the sky, what you expect the next moment? Obviously, it's a rain that is, going to be expected anytime. And it's very clever and poking fun at the weaklings. Now this is a very important line, poking fun at the weaklings, and you really need to know that what does it mean. Now this is addressed to the wind, and it carries a very deeper symbolic meaning here. See, the poet is actually, we have already done, in these lines, that it is accusing the wind of targeting and, mocking the weak things. Now what are those weak things? Let me just tell you, just a second. So the weak things, here the poet is accusing the wind of targeting them, are the fragile houses. See, we have already studied in the first 4 lines of the poem where we have done about the breaking the shutters of the windows. Now that means the houses are very weak, that's why the windows are also, very wobbly. They're not, very firmly fixed. So the poet is talking about the various weak elements like the fragile houses, and of course, the loose papers. That is why, it's mentioning, that the papers, can just fly off, when the wind blows really destructively, or any kind of a light object, that is being easily blown away by destroying activity of the wind. Now the weaklings is a very particular word that has been used here. We really need to understand the meaning of this word, because, sometimes what happens, the meaning of the words are directly asked to you in your RTCs, that is your reference to context, right? And you really need to address the word very nicely. So it is actually symbolizing, the weakling word is symbolizing, various things around, or maybe people. It could be either of the two. So let's just write it down. It could be people, or it could be the things or the objects around. Now, how are they considered as weak? Because they are physically, mentally, and emotionally. All these 3 aspects of a particular human being are symbolized as very weak. So, wind is representing a lot of challenges, a lot of difficulties, and the poet is saying, that life difficulties is actually, breaking those who are not prepared. So I hope my children are totally strong, they are totally prepared, to face any challenges that they face across in their life. I hope these lines are clear to you. Okay, now we really need to dive into, the poetic devices of these lines, as we did with the first stanza. So just let me erase it out. You can rewind the video and you can check out the meanings again, right? Okay, now the second stanza has a first poetic device. Any guesses? Okay, the first poetic device here again is personification, children, because you really need to remember that we are addressing the wind, and wind is described as very clever, very mocking. Okay, so again that means we are attributing the human quality to the non-living thing. Now again we have, as we come across another poetic device, that is tore the pages of the books. Now here we have again the sound of the and the, right? So this is alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of a consonant sound. Got it? Right. And can you just guess that what could be the tone of the poem here? It's very, critical. It's very, frustrating. The tone of the poem, if specifically asked from this stanza, then you children, you have to write it down that it's very critical and it's very frustrating. Okay. Now let's jump on to the third stanza, and that is from the frail crumbling houses, and it runs till your line that ends at them all. So let's read it and understand the deeper meaning. Now, frail crumbling houses, crumbling doors, crumbling rafters, crumbling wood, crumbling bodies, crumbling lives, crumbling hearts. The wind God winnows and crushes them all. Beautiful lines and have a very, very deep meaning. Okay. Now let's get started with how the poet has tried to explain about the impact of these lines and how have we really need to understand the depth of the lines. Now see, poet is actually listing the various parts of the house. He's mentioning, the doors, and he's mentioning the rafters. Now what are rafters, children? These are the wooden beams, that is supporting your roof. Okay. And you just check out the word here, that is crumbling. How many times it's been repeated? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh my God, so many number of times. So this repetition is emphasizing a certain quality here, that is the weakness of the objects or the human beings. Okay, it shows, that something which is not strong or properly built is really going to fall apart. when the wind comes. Okay, now can we really move on to the deeper meaning of these lines, like crumbling wood and crumbling bodies and crumbling lives? Okay, let's get into the deeper meaning of these lines, because in our RTC you might get a particular phrase or a line from your RTC, and it can be put across in your exam to explain the lines in a very beautiful way. So let's get started. Now, see, the crumbling wood, it refers obviously, to the weak buildings, because we haven't built them very strong to withstand, any kind of a challenge. Crumbling bodies and lives. Now, from where is the, poet shifting from the non-living objects to the living? That means he's shifting into the human realm, the human beings, their emotional, their mental, their physical strength, that they are not that, stronger to withstand the difficulties. Okay, that means people really need to have, that quality to tolerate the pressure and to face the hardships. And now, what is this word called crumbling heart means? This crumbling heart again is a beautiful word, that's being mentioned here in the poem. Let me just rub it so that we can easily focus on the word that we are studying. Crumbling heart. Now, heart is, symbolizing something related to a lot of emotion, love, your inner strength, now, the crumbling heart is referring to a lot of emotional weakness, something, which is being completely drained out, and, you don't have any hope, to fight yourself in the tough times. So, poet is saying that inner strength can also collapse. If we don't nurture it, it's going to completely crumble down. Okay. So, guys, I hope my children have understood these lines, and we now really need to find out what are the poetic devices. Okay, now see, the poetic device that I think you must have guessed by now. The crumbling word has been repeated how many times? 7 times. So the first poetic device here is going to be repetition. Okay, now the second device that we need to check out is your okay, see, when you write about crumbling houses, crumbling doors, crumbling rafters, that means you have a sound that is being repeated again and again in the same line, and that's a consonant sound, and we get the next device, that is alliteration. And of course, you get the imagery as the third device, because you can visualize everything, the visuals of destruction. Okay, now let's move on to the next stanza of the poem. He won't do what you tell him. So come, let's build strong homes. Let's join the doors firmly, practice to form the body, make the heart steadfast. Now we have taken these 5 lines, leaving the next 5 lines for the last stanza. Now here the poet is actually, telling you a kind of a solution. If there's a problem, it comes with a solution. So let's tackle the problem and find out a solution for ourselves. He says, he won't do what you tell him. Since the wind is not, it's not going to listen to you. So what are you going to do? You're going to strengthen yourself. How are you going to strengthen yourself? Physically, emotionally, mentally, make yourself strong. Let's build strong homes. Make your homes so strong and sturdy that they are not affected by the blow or the destructive power of the wind. Let's join the doors firmly. Let's our doors be, joined very, very firmly, with a lot of firmness, when we build our houses, so that they are no more wobbly, they are no more shaky, and they don't crumble, when the wind is blowing very mightiously. And in a similar manner, practice to form the body. Make yourself physically, emotionally, mentally very, very strong. Okay, and make the heart steadfast. Now, what do you mean by this line, make the heart steadfast? That means you really need to make sure that your heart is totally full of power, right? And it withstands any kind of a difficulty, any kind of a hardship that you face in your life. Okay, so children, what kind of a tone you think the poet is using here? It's a kind of a tone that poet is trying to order us. There's a command in the poem. So we have a imperative tone. See children, the tone is changing. The first second stanza, we had the critical and a frustrated tone. Now when we move on to your fifth stanza, the fourth one, we get the tone of the poem as imperative. This is the tone of the poem. Now metaphor is another device that is used here. And where are we going to identify this device? Make the heart steadfast. So that means we have used this line and we have tried to identify the poetic device metaphor. I hope you know the device metaphor. Metaphor is a device in which we indirectly compare something, for example, let me give you an example. See, If we're using a simile, I hope you children must be knowing that she's as beautiful as a rose. That means we've used the word as to compare, some living being, with a beauty of a rose, right? Now, if I have to say in another manner, if I indirectly have to, address her, what will I say? That she's a rose, right? So that means I'm metaphorically addressing that girl as a rose. Similarly, I'm metaphorically addressing the mind, the heart to be very steadfast, to be very strong. Okay. Now, there is another, device which is usually, not being generally asked in your exam, but let's cover it as well. There is a, just a second. Just give me a second. Okay, we have another device that is called parallelism. Now, what is this device, children? See, there is some kind of a similarity in a sentence structure. You will say, let's join the doors, right? Let's build the strong homes. There is a parallelism that where we really need to work hard on ourselves. We really need to make our houses very strong. We really need to make the doors really firm and very sturdy, so that they really don't shake around when the wind is blowing. So that means there is a kind of a parallelism. There is a similar kind of a sentence structure that we have just figured it out in this stanza with these two words, let's build and let's join. Okay, so let's move on to the last stanza of the poem and let's read out the last 5 lines. Do this and the wind will be friends with us. The wind blows out weak fires. He makes strong fires roar and flourish. His friendship is good and we praise him every day. Now this is a beautiful line, and it's really going to give you a very deeper meaning as to what the poet is trying to conclude the poem in a very optimistic tone. So what is the tone of the poem in the last 5 lines? It is optimism. See, we've covered different kind of, the tones. Initially, we talked about the tone as very critical and frustrated. Then we moved on to the imperative tone. And the last, we have the optimism. Okay? That is being reflected by the poet in the last lines. Now, the poet is concluding on a very strong and a positive note that if we become strong, the wind will not harm us. It's really going to be friends with us. It's really going to help us grow. That is the beauty of, being very strong and steady in your life. If you are strong, if you are steady, even those who are against you are really going to come and stand next to you, and they're really going to be friends with you. This is the beauty of being stronger, and this is how, you really need to shape up your lives. Okay, children? So let's get into the lines and figure it out what the poem is trying to bring out the meaning of the line. Now, the poet says, the wind blows out weak fires. Now, see what happens. If a very small or a very weak flame is burning and, the wind is blowing, it's really going to get extinguished. It's really going to, be put off. But he makes strong fires roar and flourish. That means there's a very large and a very strong fire that's already burning. And if we fuel the fire by wind, it's really going to intensify. The flames are really going to rise higher and higher. Okay, so you got the meaning. So that means the life's challenges that are being represented by the wind is affecting people in a different way. If you are stronger, they're really going to make you rise higher. But if you're weaker, they're really going to crumble you down. So strong people, those who are determined, those who are brave, those who are resilient, they are really going to face the challenges and they are going to come out as a winner. Okay, but the weak people, what are they going to do? They're just going to give up or break down, when they face any kind of a hardship. So his friendship is good. It's good to be friends with the wind, and we praise him every day. And this is how we really need to praise the wind every day, because we have become stronger. We have, not to, take wind and address it, to come very softly, not to do this, not to do that. No, now we are going to praise him because we have become stronger, equally stronger as the wind is mightiest, as we have, got that strength and courage together in our mind and heart. Okay, so challenges destroy the weak, but they strengthen the strong. So what message do you get from the poem? It says that don't fear the wind. That means don't fear your challenges of the life. The life's challenges are going to break you, but you really need to stand very, very strong. Okay, and be like a roaring fire. so that even the wind is going to praise you, okay, and even wind is going to help you rise. So strength is there to be built up inside as well as outside, so that in any kind of an adverse situation you just survive and come out as a winner. I hope these lines are totally clear into what has been explained to you right now. Now see, we have to, I think, finish up the poetic devices as we had done with the previous stanzas. So let's get into the poetic devices of this last lines, and I really need to erase out the little words that I have written around so that you can easily figure it out, the poetic devices. Now here again, again the repetition of the personification device is going to come back in these lines, because we are again addressing wind as a friend, okay. The word friend is only used with the human beings, but here we are attributing it to a wind, so of course we are using personification. And the next device that is coming up is symbolism. Now, what is symbolism? It is, something, a word, that is signifying some sort of a message, some sort of a word. So, wind is the wind is symbolizing challenges. Okay, and the third poetic device has been used as a contrast. That means between the weak fires and the strong fires, right? There's a contrast that has been brought out in these two lines, where the weak fires they are being destroyed, and the strong fires, they flourish. Okay, I hope you have understood the poem very well, and of course the poetic devices that has been discussed along with every stanza of the poem. So stay tuned to my channel, stay connected to Study with Ekta. To get the notifications of all the videos uploaded, kindly like, share and subscribe to my channel, and thank you for watching.